OSVEA is an acronym that stands for options, selection, visualization, execution, and acceptance. These are the 5 components of a golf shot that every tour professional, yes, every tour professional will pass through when hitting to a target in competitive play. The options phase of OSVEA is where the player makes observations about the environment and looks at their shot options. They may have a safe option, a moderate option, and an aggressive option. Once they've observed the environment and looked at their shot options, it's then time to select a club, a target, and a shot shape. Now, when we look at tour professionals, in this section, as they collate all this concrete data, they take in more information than the novice player. A great example of this would be someone like Phil Mickelson. Oh, you don't believe that Phil Mickelson has mastered the strategic side of golf? Well, check this out.
That goes 145 yards, let's say. Now that will vary based on temperature and altitude, and which will change with time of day and whatnot, as well as wind and those effects. But one of the things people will say is, I hit my wedge, 120. Well, you might hit a 120 under certain conditions, but in the morning, ball's not going to go 120. Maybe in the afternoon when it's warmer and the ball heats up, but it's going to go 5 to 10 yards shorter in the morning. People don't factor that in. If you get a little bit of water in between the club face and the ball, people don't know it actually increases spin, causes it to go shorter. The first cut always comes out 6 to 8 yards dead. If the grain is into you, it's going to launch and hit lower on the face, launch lower, have more spin. If it's down grain, the club slides a little bit quicker, you'll get more out of it. If it's sitting up on zoysia or off of a tee, always goes 5 yards farther with each iron, based on the fact that the center of gravity is underneath the ball and it launches higher, a little bit less spin. All these things I have to factor in when I look at the lie. Okay, how is the lie and how is the ball going to come out relative to my 145 9 iron? Now, that's 10 off a stock, so I have a normal swing,
right,
and then I have a second swing for every iron shot, and it's a little bit shorter backswing with the same acceleration. So I have a 145 and a 155 yard shot. What is the lie going to do? What's the temperature? What's the wind? How do I want the ball coming into the green?
So, there we have it. Phil Mickelson, an expert performer. And during the option and selection phases of his routine, he takes in massive amounts of information about the variables in the environment, uses that to build his shot options, and then selects targets, a club, and a shot shape. Now, the elite performer moves into the next component of the pre-shot routine, which is visualization. The goal of visualization is to take this concrete data that was collated during the options and selection phases and now begin to turn it into something more sensory. So, visualization can be use of imagery, can be use of sound, or can be use of feel. An incredible example of a player that takes the concrete data and turns it into something more sensory through visualization is Jason Day. So, don't take my word for this. Let's take a time out and check out what Jason Day does during his routine.
One of the things that we saw a lot on TV at the PGA was just your pre-visualization routine when before the shot, and you're very consistent with it, and we'd love to just hear your thoughts about talk us through the routine, and we'll go through your mind.
It's kind of been a work in progress over the years, really just trying to trial and error more so, just kind of get the best way or the most efficient way for me to feel comfortable going into a shot.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, every golfer goes through a shot where some days they'll be concentrating a little bit more, and some days they won't be concentrating as hard as they were. And sometimes they'll go into a shot and not really think about it and hit a shot and it'll go into the trees and wonder why. And you just weren't concentrating hard enough on your target. Right. So, I used to visualize. I used to struggle visualizing with my eyes open. really trying to pick a shot, whether it was a fade or a draw or high-low. So my coach one day, Colin, said, why don't you just close your eyes? Aaron Badley does it. So I started closing my eyes at a very young age. I was like 14, 15 years old. So I started closing my eyes, and that's kind of how that came along. But really, it's very simple. I try and I take 2 practice swings before my shot. I just really try and mimic what I'm trying to accomplish. And for the most part, I'm just trying to hit a high bomb draw. So I just try and get the feeling of getting the club on the inside just a little bit, because that's where I feel the most powerful, is just getting the club on the inside. And then when I come back, I close my eyes. And when I close my eyes, I see a picture of myself standing like right here. So I'm standing there. I'm about to hit the shot, and I visualize my swing go back, and then go through, and I see the ball come out. And then I see how it goes, where it lands, and how it bounces. So when I close my eyes, I visualize that, and I make sure, especially last week, I make sure that I don't hit the shot or don't stop visualizing until I'm fully comfortable with that visual. So after I do that, then I come in, and say for instance, I'm picking the tower. I'll be coming in, looking at the tower, but I know where the ball is because I've got my awareness at the ball. And then once I change my eyes to the ball, my awareness is going back out to that tower, and then I look up to the tower and know exactly where it is. And then I come back, throw my awareness back at the ball, and then I stand over it. And my last thing is taking that one little, kind of, I guess, that little, because we're so static, I just don't want to go straight back. So I just want to make sure that I have that one little waggle, and then think about my target and just hit it as hard as I can. So the biggest thing is to aim small, miss small. It's like when you're shooting at a target, right? You don't shoot at the whole target, especially if you have a gun or a bow and arrow. You're trying to hit that little centerpiece. So with golf, it's hard to kind of hit golf balls like this, because you can't. So the biggest thing for me is to really kind of visual and think about my target. And then I just go ahead and just hit it as hard as I can.
Interesting.
So that's kind of how I go about my pre-shot routine, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but lately I've been very disciplined enough to go and say I'm not going to hit the shot until I'm comfortable.
You feel ready?
Yeah, ready.
Yeah. Do you do that on, like, what kind of shots do you do that on every shot?
I do it on every shot. Yeah, I do it on.
So there we have it. An incredible insight into how Jason Day uses visualization to change concrete data from the options and selection phase and turn it into something more sensory, ready to help his brain and body connect and execute the golf shot. So execution is the 4th component of OSVEA, and the goal in the execution phase is really to quieten the negative mind. As humans, we are programmed to pay attention to threatening stimuli. This is great if we're crossing a road, because we'll stop, look and listen, and if it's safe, we'll go. This is great for when we're driving a car. We'll stop at red lights for fear of getting a ticket, or even worse, getting smashed into. But it's not the best for our golf. As we approach the execution phase of OSVEA, we have to fight our innate human survival mechanisms and keep what I call the inner chimp, the negative mind, silent. Now there's infinite ways of doing this, but rather than me explain them, let's check out how Jordan Spieth does this. Okay, Ramel, roll Spieth's routine.
Until I get to kind of pitch shots, it changes a little. But what I'll do is I'll often kind of stand back behind the ball, kind of in line with it like this, and say I'm going to go, we'll just stick with the same target over the red pole. And so I'll stand kind of back here, and I'll kind of think, am I going to, if I'm going to hit a high straight ball, I kind of get the motion right here of what straight is, right? With kind of 2 or 3 little practice swings, nothing swinging too hard. Just get the motion. If I'm going to hit more of a fade, I'm kind of sawing it off, right? Just a little difference in those two swings, just to kind of get that motion. I step back, and you try and see the shot. So I normally stand kind of in this position, look at where that ball is going to travel up in the air, where it's going to drop, the depth that it's going to land. Is it going to fly that bunker out there? Is it going to land just right at it, just left of it? And then from there, I step in, still kind of eye on the target, set the club down right where I want it to be started. Sometimes I bob my head too much, I've seen that, but all in all, you'd like to kind of just get set up in a nice, comfortable, powerful position, pointed at that target, and put that same swing that you just rehearsed. That's the idea.
So there we have it. During the execution phase, Jordan Spieth is focused on recreating the same feels that he felt in his practice swing. This is a strategy that allows his mind to silence that inner chimp, to avoid focusing on threatening stimuli. Perhaps the all-time great at keeping the inner chimp quiet may be Tiger Woods. Remember this?
Expect anything different?
The fifth and final component of OSVEA, acceptance. Players that can accept the outcome of the shot have an increased chance of hitting every single one of these steps next time they approach the golf ball. Players that struggle to accept the outcome, experience anger, stress, frustration, could potentially miss steps next time they approach the golf ball, and ultimately this can have an adverse effect on their shot. A great example of a tour player who engages in acceptance to such a high level is Jim Furyk. After every shot, Jim Furyk analyzes his process, and sometimes if he's unhappy with the outcome, he'll even re-hit an imaginary shot, trying to recreate and simulate what he's just been through and enhance his process for next time he approaches the golf ball. Now, imagine this. Imagine empowering one of your students to go through shot options and selection to the level of Phil Mickelson. Now imagine if this same student had a visualization process like Jason Day. Then imagine if they could keep the chimp quiet to the extent of Tiger Woods, and then finally accept shots like Jim Furyk. Empowering this kind of thought process can help the mind and body connect and allow your students to find their better golf swings more often.